I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast from Mark Boersma for Dummies. And today we're going to be going through 12. So, so one of the things about Mark as a driving force is that he is your best friend if you have a sincere desire to grow. How, I mean, people go ahead and think they understand what this means. They don't.
How so?
Rosanna, Nora, can you help Elaine understand?
If you don't grow, you're gonna feel like Mark's flipping all your tables and you're not gonna be his friend.
So if somebody doesn't like to be challenged, then he's not gonna be your best friend.
Sure.
He won't even be a friend. He will be an enemy.
Okay.
Like he will be the enemy. Rosanna, can you help out at all on this?
If you're not growing, then don't expect Mark to care.
Okay. Ooh. This explains a lot. Like, okay, good. What's one of people's favorite responses, like favorite manipulative responses, which never works? I just laugh. When like what do people say? Like when this gets challenged. Men, girls, women, boys, everybody. What's their favorite response? Like what's their defensive mechanism that they think is going to work, but it never does work? What do they say?
Mark, you don't understand.
Okay, so that's a one level. That's typically their mind. But when you talk about mind, body, and soul, everything growing, not just the mind, you know, what do they say?
You think you're
It's just
God?
okay. Some people will say that. Like, I don't know. It's so funny to go ahead. Like when somebody says, like, I don't know how much you guys get this. I get this a lot. People are like, "Ah, you think you're God?" It's just funny. It's just funny. It's like, yep, that person doesn't have an understanding. I think we covered that before, though. No, there's something else. People will say, I can never make you happy. You're never happy, Mark. Mark, have you ever read The Mouse and the Cookie? Like, and so what they do is they go ahead and they take these little tiny steps and they expect a sticker, a star. They expect some recognition. So we're not talking we're not talking like little tiny itty bitty growth steps here. We're talking radical change of how you're thinking. You are a new person. You are a different person. You had something life changing happen to you in the last 10 minutes. I mean, I remember John Nicholson. He was the guy. John Nicholson. I don't know if you guys are taking notes on this. Man, it'd be cool. John Nicholson and Ed Rydell. So John Nicholson, have I shared this story about the church? And he was running the whole Action Vision division. And after 3 months, he comes to me. He says, Mark, it's interesting. So he went to the same church I did. He says, it's interesting, Mark, because nobody at church understands you. I said, okay. And I grew up as a kid in the church. It was my dad's church. So I've been there all the time. He said, nobody understands you. I said, okay, what does that mean? He says, it's fascinating to me, Mark. Like, people don't think you care. And you like the most caring person I've ever met. People think I care and I don't. People think you don't care and you do. And so I think I shared that story in one of the previous ones. Yeah, no. I don't know.
Not sure. Don't remember.
Yeah. And so it was fascinating because, so I own the company and it's coaching. So we find out, people like we go deep wherever people want to go. So there's this one guy and, 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself spiritually? And he said a 3. And we said, what would you like it to be? And he said a 10. So he's open spiritually. He wants input. So it was on his action vision plan. And we said, and this guy he was going to college he was like in his 30s, mid 30s, 40s. He's going back to college to become a pastor. It's part-time or whatever. And so he wanted to be a pastor, a chaplain. So he's got a job and it's his client. And it's like, okay, you have permission. The client gives you permission. I give you permission to do it. Did he go ahead and help the guy grow spiritually? He did not. I'm like, John. And then the guy gets into some funky stuff, interesting stuff that's not. And I'm like, John, like, what's going on here? Now, poor guy, I don't know. He struggled, but then he became a pastor later on in life. Of course he did. So anyways, Ed Riddell, he was running the office. He was the office manager. And then John was running the action vision. And every morning we'd sit down and I'd go ahead and ask a question. And I'd be like, hey, John, did you get this done? Ed, did you get this done? And one time John's like, it's crazy, Mark. I said, what's that, John? And they're like, I can do 99 things and I don't do one. And you find the one that I don't do. I'm like, okay, well, that's a gift. And Ed's like, yeah, Mark, it seems like you want us to grow like every week. I'm thinking, are you kidding? I'm thinking, wild me, that you're growing every day, every hour. But it was so much work. The poor guys. It was so much work. It's like we have to grow every week. We have to grow. So we're not talking normal growth here. We're talking supernatural growth. Like, it's the coolest thing in the world to be 62 years old and to think something for all these years and then to be wrong and find out you've been thinking wrong. This seems like it's unusual for maybe 62-year-old men, white males over 50. It seems like they want to see where they're right, not where they're wrong. That's kind of stupid. Yesterday in my pickleball coaching, I asked Courtney, I said, what's the biggest challenge that, entry-level pickleball people, this relates, by the way, so what's the entry level? And she said to apply what they're doing, what they're learning. So you learn it, she coaches you, and then to apply it. I said, okay, that makes sense. And the intermediate, what's the biggest challenge they have? And she said, same thing. And I said, got it, copy that. And then I said the advanced, and she said to continue to do the drills and continue to learn and grow. Got it. Okay, copy it. And she's like, are you going to write this down? I'm like, no, I have a photographic auditory memory. She laughed. And then I said, what about men? What's the biggest challenge for men in pickleball? And she said, ego. I mean, she was good about it. She was humble. She says, I don't know, maybe you ought to ask men. I'm like, no, I want you to know and you to tell me. She's like, I don't know, ego. I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense. I said, what's the biggest challenge that women have in pickleball? And you ladies will never guess what the answer is. Well, Nora might, because I told her, I think, earlier. She said,
Confidence.
nope, she didn't say that. She said, prioritizing pickleball. She said, women put everything above themselves. Now, that's a great seduction for women. Put their husbands first and their kids first and everything else, but they don't put often their own health, mental health, emotional health. And there's truth. I can see that totally. I can totally see that. And so, growing It's not, as I get older, I should grow faster. Why is that, Mark? Because I have more life experience. I should be, I mean, I remember when I was 43 years old and I'm 22 employees and every Friday we'd have a meeting, we'd all get together. And so we'd fill up, the whole room. There'd be 22 people and we'd be going through. And I came in one Friday and I said, I want to tell you all something. 43 years old. I said, I want to tell you all something. I said, I discovered something in the last little while, last few weeks, last month or so. And that is that I have never been so confident in my life that I'm wrong. This is not something they teach you in management. like, 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 I'm sure that deer, like that went ahead and gave him a lot of confidence. Way to go, a leader. Never been so confident. And then I paused and let it kind of sit in. And I said, and I've never been so confident that I'll catch it quick, fast. See, there's reflexes, there's little tells, there's little signs that reveal the heart of somebody. And that heart, if you can get it, the sooner you can get to the heart and fix it at the heart level, the better. So when people go ahead, so it's like I can see what people's potential is which is why people are drawn to me. That and my, 3-year-old energy, mindset. First one-on-one coaching Courtney and I said, I have 9 questions for you. She says, she giggles and laughs. She says, shoot. And so I told her 1, 2, 3. And so like I want her just like I want, like when I was 27 years old and I started coaching with my international speaking coach, Linda Breakall. And she said, Mark, you're the most god awful after a 3-day boot camp. One day into the 3-day boot camp, she says, you're the most god awful speaker I've ever met in my life. 27 years old. What was my response? I laughed. I said, that's awesome, Linda. I have no place to go but up. Like there's no ego. It's just, okay, if you suck, you suck. I mean, I get it. Didn't want to speak, didn't like to speak, don't like to write, don't think I'm good at writing. Like, don't like it, don't enjoy it. I enjoy it less than women, enjoy doing dishes. Like I hate it. Imagine doing it for 11 or 12 hours. Don't need a sticker, don't need a button. And so Linda laughed and she said, you are a masochist, Mark. She's like, I've never met, anybody like you. Like you love pain. No, I don't love pain. What I love is I love growing. At 27 years old, Mark? Yeah, 27 years old. And so, like, if you're going to play, I forget what her words was. If you're not first, you're last, I think is what it is. She says, here's my saying for the book. I said, you're already in the book. She said, am I going to be in the book? What do you all think? What do all you think she's going to be rethinking at some point?
Request the book?
No, she got the book. I think she might be thinking, I don't want to be in that book. I don't want any quotes attributed to me. I'm going to be careful with her. I like her. I like her mom. Like they're both sweet ladies. So I don't know how to emphasize it more. Like, I don't know why people don't connect the dots. Like, like an exercise. If you go ahead and do 20 reps and you do another 2 more beyond the 20, you can gain more benefit from those extra 2 reps than you did the first 20. It's the extra stuff. You don't want to break yourself. You don't want to rip a muscle or tear a muscle or something like that, but you want to be sore. You want it to hurt. Same thing with phone calling. I don't know why, but you can make 20 phone calls in the day, and you make 22, and all of a sudden you'll get more from the 22nd and 21st and second than you do the first one. I don't know why this is. It's just life. It just seems like that's life, where when you can't do anything more and you do something more, all of a sudden that's where the breakthroughs, that's where the growth comes from. And so, like, a sincere desire to grow. Like, I'm going to be your best friend if that's true. If it's not, though, he talks about it later. You need to be warned. He's going to expose you pretty quick. And then it's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Is Jim being dramatic? I don't know that he is. Nora, questions, thoughts?
No, I'm following.
Elaine, questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think Jim's being dramatic. I think that's the way it is.
Right? But when I'm laughing, people are like, well, it can't be that bad if he's laughing. It's like, don't believe him. Don't believe, like my kids. When somebody says to my kids, your dad is the smartest, he is the nicest, he's the most wise, kindest person, they just shake their head and laugh, and they're like, don't believe him. He's drawing you into his web. I mean, it just, people are funny. Rosanna, your thoughts?
I think he's right on.
Yeah. So 13, what we'll be talking about next time is you might like that if you have the humility. Why are we devoting a whole one just for humility? Because, I grew up Baptist and my dad was a pastor, and pastors talk a lot about humility. Good, solid Christians talk a lot about humility. When somebody's talking about humility, there's a good reason they're probably talking about it, because they don't have it. If you got to use words, if you've got to use words, it's probably not true. Just saying. Just saying. All right. So this is going to be cool. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate y'all. Have a blessed day. Bye.